Okay, guys, so I'm joined by the founder of Ketone IQ, Michael Brand himself. Really new, exciting, well, newish, new in my world. Exciting products on the market. I've been testing it for a few weeks now, and yeah, really only have a lot of good things to say about it. But looking forward to catching up with you today. I think it's only fitting if we start with a cheers to having a shot in the beginning.
I got mine right here. Cheers.
Let's go. Let me have this one actually. Cheers, Michael. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me today. Whew. Feel alive. um, okay, so do you want to just give us a little bit of background? First of all, I suppose on yourself, being a marathon runner yourself. I suppose that'll be of interest to a lot of the people watching this video and my following. And then a little bit about how this product came about and, you know, how it's getting so much traction and reach out there.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Nick. Thanks for having me on, and thanks everyone for listening in. I'm a 2:42 marathoner, so notch or two slower than you, but certainly get after it, and have gotten into this sport in a really interesting way where I studied computer science in undergrad and got really interested in biohacking and thinking about technology on and in the human body. So wearing a continuous glucose monitor like a decade ago before there was super sapiens and levels and you had to kind of jerry rig that together. I've done week-long fast. I've done a lot of different diets, different nootropics, different microdosing of different things, and came in very like curious, kind of citizen scientist about human health, longevity, performance, and then got into distance running, did my first half marathon, and really fell in love with it, and started applying that kind of like overly that like biohacking nerdball mind towards running, which I know a lot of us, a lot of runners have that sense of like tracking your heart rate, tracking your cadence, tracking your calories in, tracking anything that can be tracked because it all does matter. And through that process, created HVMN, Health via Modern Nutrition, with the idea being that, well, one of the forms of fuel that your body uses when you're doing distance running is a ketone. Your body makes ketones from fat, especially when you're running low on blood sugar. Your body makes ketones from fat. Fat can't cross the blood-brain barrier, so like you need brain energy especially, and that can come from glucose, but again, when you're low on blood sugar, you don't have much of that around, so your body needs to make ketones. And the insight that I had 5 years ago, a little bit more at this point, was, well, if ketones are this really super efficient fuel that your body makes when you really need it, and it has all these interesting properties, like it's very metabolically efficient, it doesn't require as much oxygen to turn into ATP at the cellular level, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, makes your central governor feel really, really bright for like longer than it would otherwise. If ketones have all these amazing characteristics to them, why can't you just go to the store and buy a shot of 10 grams of ketones? And that was the dumb/smart question that got kicked off my entrepreneurial journey of like, hey, like, wouldn't it be neat if instead of, you know, fasting or eating low carb or whatever, like the hoops that we jump through to get our ketone levels up, wouldn't it be cool if you could have ketones while also stacking it with like a normal diet and be able to reap the benefits of both? And in 2019, got a multi-million-dollar contract with the United States Department of Defense Special Operations Command to for the first time, make a ketone drink at scale. And they were really interested, the special forces were really interested in exogenous ketones for physically and cognitively demanding missions. So not just like, can you run faster longer, but can you run faster and longer, and then at the end of it have high accuracy on like target practice shooting drills. And the combination of like physical and mental stamina was really interesting. To do a lot of testing at like hypoxia, high altitude, low oxygen environments, really like challenging circumstances. And after 3 years of that R&D, I was able with my team to bring the cost down make the formula more palatable. The very first versions were very raw, very rough on the palatability index, and able to get it down to a spot where it was ready for the consumer market. So around a year and a half ago, January of last year, so it's August of 23 now, and in January of 22, launched Ketone IQ to the consumer world, and we're out here. Like we're moving. We're nationwide in grocery stores in the U.S. We're in a big grocery store called Sprouts. We're in Equinox gyms. We we ship it internationally. If people are in like the UK, we're on a company called Health, HEALF.com is one of our big UK partners. So we're out here. We're like a lot bigger than we were, but I think there's still a lot of room to grow because most people, like 99% of people, still don't know what a ketone is or why. What do you mean when you say fuel fantastic? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, for sure. Wow, what a story. I mean, so it's only been a year and a half since actually launching it live, and already it's been making a lot of waves. So, yeah, massive congrats on that. And it's caused me a lot of questions in the running world as well, being a coach myself. But yeah, it's really nice to be educated on this, and it's really nice for me to actually go through the process myself. And I can honestly say already from having that shot with you in the beginning, this product's dangerous because it makes you feel good without going for your run. I'm gonna sit on the couch and drink this all day.
You just have runner's high, like on your couch, like nice.
Exactly. No, but jokes aside, I think like especially when I have it fasted, I've noticed in the mornings, it seems to have a bit of a more of effect on me. And it really, I get that sort of like endorphin release feeling that I get after I go for a run, or even more so when I do a session. And I think to your point on the fact that it's not just physically boosting you, it's mentally boosting you, especially, in my world when it comes to sessions and in marathon training, and I suppose in all endurance sports, it's so much in the mind towards the end. And you can almost always push more than what your body allows you to, but you need to tap into those mental reserves. And I mean, what better way to tap into it than giving it the fuel it needs? So, like I said, I've been using it for quite a few weeks now. I'm going to be using it big time in my build up to Berlin, which is 7 weeks away. And yeah, just excited. I'm looking for 9 more seconds, Michael. I'm not getting greedy. I want to break 220. So I ran 220 in 8 seconds last year. Do you think this right here is going to help me, get those extra 9 seconds?
Yeah, there's definitely 9 seconds inside of that bottle, on top of an immense amount of hard work. But yeah, I mean, 9 seconds. That's such a razor thin margin. You're gonna do it. I'm pumped for you. That's gonna feel good.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm like trying to I'm like 6:10 splits per mile. I'm
Okay.
trying to get under my next PR. I'm trying to get under 6, so get like a 5. I'll be happy with 5:59 splits, and then we'll see from there. Hopefully one day keep just cracking at it, and sky's the limit. It's funny how you said that, because like a lot of people I think start with a certain goal. Oh, I want to qualify for Boston, or I want to then like you're like, when the dust settles for that, you're like, wonder if I could shave another 5 minutes off. Wonder if I could shave another 10 minutes off. And then once you get to a certain like super elite standard like yourself, it's like, what if I could shave 9 seconds off? It gets thinner and thinner, but it's still like just as exciting,
Yeah, that's what it's come down to. On that point quickly, do you have when's your next marathon? When's your next race?
Chicago. I'll be doing.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. We've got a lot of people in our best athletics team going over to Chicago. So I'll make sure they come and say hello.
Yes, please. We'll have a booth there. I'll be running it. We'll be there with some of our partners, Sarah Hall, who holds the American record for masters for the marathon. For women, she'll be there with us. It's going to be a really fun time. Come by and say hi.
I actually saw the field released this week for Chicago. It looks incredible. It's a really, really stacked field. And they've got Calvin Kiptum, who is, chasing Eliud Kipchoge's world record. So that might go at Chicago as well. Who knows? But yeah, Sarah Hall's there. Super exciting. And what time are you targeting, and are you on Strava so people can follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Strava. Definitely drop me a follow, say what's up. Love to see what you're up to as well. And I'm targeting, 6-minute mile pace. It's 2:37. So that's
Cool.
what I'm gunning for. And
Amazing.
we'll see.
Okay.
It's one of those things like you never really know where it's like you start the season feeling slow relative to your race, or at least for me, it's like, but then every time I've done a marathon, like by the end of the build, I'm like, I've like gone past what my goal was. So I don't want to get like too out ahead of myself here, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think I can do
Yeah.
6. I think I can do like a 5:59, and then we'll just see.
Yeah.
We'll see how we're feeling at mile 13.1 and just see how much gas we have left. I'm gonna hold very honest 6-minute flat
Cool.
for the first half, and then just see how we're feeling on the back half, and if I can drop that, let's go.
Love it, love it. I did Chicago last year, and a lot depends on the weather. Last year it was really good conditions,
Yeah,
so hopefully it's not too windy, and you get good
I
conditions. If you do, I'm backing you.
I heard in Chicago that because of all the buildings that sometimes GPS can wig out. Have you heard this? And
Yes, yes.
any ideas? And sorry to sidetrack off of ketones and me asking you for advice here. I'm just curious because while we're on the call, what's is that something that you faced either in Chicago or in other marathons with like GPS wigging out?
Always, always, always. So the key to that is so you going sub 6 minute miles, just write it down on your arm, and then check it according to the distance markers. Because even
Sure.
when you come to London Marathon one day, or any of these big city marathons, your GPS always goes funny at some stage. In Chicago, it went funny near the beginning, and I remember I was running super fast according to my watch, and I was like, I wish I was running that fast. But yeah, always write it down on your arms and check it against it. When I ran 2:20 in 8 seconds, it's the one marathon I just forgot. So I had no way of actually checking, and I believed I was under. Not that I could have found extra, but yeah, it would have been nice to know before I got to 300 meters to go. Okay, so back to the ketone chat.
Yeah.
When would you say, okay, two things. One, when is the best time to take it? Is it, morning, afternoon, or before your evening run? I'll share a bit of my experience with it. So I tend to take it before my morning jog. I've been fasted for 8 hours throughout the night, in a bit of a rush for time, have a shot of ketone, get out the door, feel pretty good. And then in the evenings, when I've been at my desk and busy on training peaks and doing plans and like feeling a little bit tired and lethargic, this shot just picks you up, wakes your brain up, and it's just easier to get out the door, I find, and you really feel good in the beginning. So that's what I found. When is the best time to do it? And then the second question is, when I run a marathon, I look to take in around 100 grams of carbs per hour, let's say. So I've got a Science and Sport Beta Fuel drink mix, and I've got certain drink stands. Do you recommend having this shot separate to that, or should I mix little bits in my drink as I go along? I'm going to be taking about 6 or 7 drinks.
As far as when to use it in training, you're doing it right. Having it before run in the morning, or if you want to pick me up in the afternoon, it's really nice because it's, especially in the later in the day sessions where you don't really want to have caffeine, which would interrupt your sleep afterwards, which is super important. It's nice to have a pick me up that is not caffeine and it's also not sugar, where you want to be like sparing with the amount of like gels and goos you'll have in your diet in general, because they're not great for you. Like having that, like a large bolus of sugar, it works, but it's like you don't want to be doing that as a like all the time thing just to get out the door. So it's nice to have ketones as a metabolically healthy source of energy that's also not caffeinated, not going to keep you up. And then as far as racing, what works for our athletes, what I do and what our pros do is they'll mix it in a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to ketones. So if you're having 100 grams of carbs, have 30 grams of ketones. And what works for most people is mixing it in, because that way you don't have to think about it. It's the ratio just works. Like if it's in your bottle, it's okay, well, I have 100, and you can modulate from there. Some people like more ketones, some people want more carb ratio, so you can modulate it. Obviously try it out in training runs, see how it works, just like any advice that you give to anyone. And I find it's easier to have in your bottle. It just depends, because like, do you want to have, okay, I got my water, I got my carbs, and I got my electrolytes, and then I got my ketones. If you completely decompose everything, then you're juggling. That's 4 different things there. Whereas I think combining at least a couple of them, where you just know, okay, whenever I have water, I'm going to want electrolytes and carbs and ketones. Like what I tend to do is just like put it all together. when possible, right? If you do have like the ability to grab a water bottle, if you're pro elite and you have ability to grab a water bottle, or you have like friends along the way that we can have grab a water bottle or have it stashed like that, or if you're wearing one on your hip or hip flask, whatnot, that generally, and this is not just for Ketone IQ, this is in general for what I recommend for putting together your witch's brew in general. Maybe you sprinkle a little caffeine in there, right? Like people, whatever works for you as far as your overall stack. I find when you're brain dead on mile 14 on the marathon, just like, you don't want to be doing math. I'm like, oh, how many Mortons per salt tab per half liter of water? Like it can be a lot of actually wasted calories to be thinking that hard. I think pre-mix based on what works for you in training and just like use that on the race.
Okay, amazing. So pretty much 1 to 3 ketones to carbs, and practice it throughout training if it works for you. Obviously, stick to it. Great. That's what I'll be doing for sure. Okay, so obviously a big part of this product is the fact that 60% of the Tour de France have been using it. So I mean, Tour de France are arguably one of the best endurance athletes in the world. Like that's very reassuring to a lot of endurance athletes out there. How are you finding the take up in this product of runners versus cyclists? And it's sort of like, is it kind of like, is running catching up, or is it like it's got its benefits for both sports?
Oh man, Nick, I love this question because there's nothing I love more than like beef within the endurance world. And it's funny because when I do triathlon as well, like running's my favorite. But often when I'm like kind of in off season from marathon build, I'll do a triathlon. So lighten the load on my running legs and get some swimming and biking. So I love it all. I think it's all fun. And I think it's, but it's also fun just tapping into the differences in those subcultures. And what I will say is that cyclists, by virtue of the hardware that they use and the culture of cycling, they're just so quantified, unlike any other sport. Running, I think, is second. Cyclists, because they're just so dialed on their watts per kilogram, like it just it's so measured. Like you're on this piece of hardware, you're able to measure every aspect of it, and that's what's made it like really the first sport that we took off in, because you can just see your watts per kilogram take off. Like you can just see very directly versus basketball player, footballer, like stamina, endurance matters. We're all doing metabolism all the time. Like we're still having the same effect, but it's lost more so in the noise of like, well, there's all this dynamism happening on the field. Running's certainly a lot closer to cycling in the sense that it's, there's really one objective function that you're optimizing for, which is like total speed. And there's a way to be pretty quantified about it. Like with the smartwatch, with, if you're doing certain training sessions in a lab, measuring your VO2 max, measuring your lactate threshold, like you can be quite scientific around it and see objectively what's working for you. So I would say, cycling led the way just by virtue of the fact that they're all just like major. There's not a single cyclist on the Tour de France that doesn't know like precisely their watts per kilogram at every like second of the race. It's just so freaking dialed. And that's why it's been like the lead. And then I would say, running very much picking up. And then we're getting into some other interesting sports like golf. Funny enough, like not an endurance sport, but golfers are getting really into it, which again, like complete surprise, because it's not like, I guess you'd expect the next one over would be like swimming or something, right? But golf is because of the mental aspect, like the clarity, and then golfers, if anyone out there golfs, like you don't want to have a lot of caffeine for energy because it makes you too jittery. So the fact that Ketone IQ makes you like lights on without having that like overactivation and being kind of manic is a feature that a lot of golfers are drawn to. So it's interesting to see how it's like how the water is like flowing down the mountain. It is, as an entrepreneur, it's like you can try to sell your product to this person, that person, but like you also have to listen. Like I don't golf, but I guess I'm getting into golf now. Like I guess like you gotta see where the water flows. You can think you're selling something to one set of people, and you also gotta listen to the market.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. You know what? I'm a big fan of golf myself. I don't have enough time to put into it to get good at it at the moment because I'm putting a lot of time into running. But when my running days are over, I'm going back to golf. So that's good to know that I'll stick on the same product. And I mean, yeah, the fact that it makes you sharper, it was a surprise when you initially mentioned it, and then after you think about it a bit more, it's like actually it kind of does make sense. But yeah, Intersport rivalry. I mean, my one mate who I run with, he's come from sort of like a professional cycling background, and we forever arguing over who's the best endurance athletes in the world. Tour de France go multi-stage stages, whereas the Elliot Kipchoge's of the world and the people winning the marathon majors, they're not going multi-stage, but running's so much more impactful on your body. So yeah, I think you can argue it, and I don't know if there's a clear winner. But I mean, it makes sense that cycling adopted it first and foremost because they're measuring it, and if they're accurately getting live data and stats in there, it's like a no-brainer type thing. I guess with running, the proof is in the pudding in the results over a gradual time, and there's so many variables. So like, you obviously, things have to go right on race day as well, and using this in the build up, and then you can be like, okay, cool, the proof is in the pudding type thing. Cool. And then like lastly, onto the taste of the product. So I know you describe it tasting as rocket fuel. When I had it the first time, I was just like, boom, it was almost like a form of a tequila shot for me. I'm actually quite used to it now. I almost kind of enjoy it now. But initially, I wasn't really expecting that. How has the feedback been from, the taste of it? And like, are you also used to it yourself and you kind of enjoy it now?
Yeah. That's definitely the most salient thing that people notice is the taste and then the effect. And we always say, it tastes like rocket fuel, but it works like rocket fuel. So it's a good, fair shake. And it's made we ferment it. It's a fermentation process. We have a specialized form of bacteria where you feed them plant biomass and they output ketones. So it's basically like a high-tech kombucha factory or similar process to how you might make a like wine or beer. And that fermentation process makes it taste the way it does. We don't doctor it up a lot. We put a little bit of monk fruit in there and a little bit of acid and just not much else to it. We could arguably sauce it up more, and a lot of the purists, I think, wouldn't like that. A lot in our community just want the pure, good stuff rather than putting weird artificial sweeteners or putting a bunch of sugar in there, or like a lot. The profile person that's drawn to this type of product really wants it for what it is. And it's funny you said that about just like starting to actually like it, which is true. Like it reminds me like no one's born liking black coffee or red wine, or like a lot of these more like a gin and tonic. A lot of these more like sophisticated flavors you kind of grow towards, and then you maybe don't like the first, second, third time you have it, but then psychosomatically you learn like just like the smell of coffee makes you feel like warm and alert and ready to start the day. Like you start associating, like some people associate a gin and tonic with like just relax. As soon as they take the first sip, they feel like, okay, it's time to unbuckle and chill. And like there's that feeling that we're building of like that same mental connection with Ketone IQ, that it like just tastes like performance. Like you drink it and it's like, all right, ready to go. And but it's interesting because I don't want to sugarcoat it. It doesn't taste like your grandma's apple juice or something. It doesn't taste like, it's not like yummy. It has a certain taste to it. On a really practical note, there's like a couple things people can do if the taste is jarring. Is like you can put it in the fridge. Definitely best served chilled, just like anything, just like a Coca-Cola or anything is like best served chilled. And then you can also mix it in. So I'll mix it with like an electrolyte and squeeze some lemon juice in there. So like I like raspberry LMNT electrolyte plus a lemon plus some Ketone IQ with water. It actually tastes like fantastic, and it's got zero sugar, got some electrolytes, got some Ketone IQ in that. So I'll often just like have that as my, just be sipping on that throughout the day, throughout meetings or after my workout on my way to work. Like that's one way that you can make it kind of mocktail out of Ketone IQ and make it taste, you can like dress it up pretty nice.
No, I mean, yeah, from my side, I think like I really appreciate that there's no artificial flavors added to it or anything added to make it taste better. Like I'd rather have something that has a better effect on you and is not sweetened. Like you get a whole bunch of, protein bars out there that taste better than a chocolate bar, and you're just like, how can this really be good for you if it tastes this amazing? So no, I'm all for performance over taste, and appreciate that you haven't put any artificial flavoring in. Cool. Thank you so much for chatting to you today. It was really really cool. I can't wait to see you break 237 in Chicago. I'm gonna go break 220 at Berlin. And we'll cheers to another Ketone IQ after that, and then follow that up by a cold beer. How does that sound?
I'm so excited. Yes, yes, and yes. Let's get together. And yeah, for real, if anyone on the team there, any of your athletes are going to be in Chicago, let's get together.
Definitely,
Build a
definitely. We've got
community
a
here.
squad of about 15 or 20, so I'll let them know. And yeah, for those of you listening, I'll put up my discount code on screen, but it's Nick, capital NICK, and you get 30% off your subscription. Cool,
Yeah,
great chatting to you, and yeah, looking forward to the performance effect this has.
right on. Thanks so much, Nick.
Cheers, Michael. All the best, eh? Bye bye.